project. This is the more advanced project for introducing the color wheel. And if you've already done that in your classes, that's great. We introduced it at Parkmont last year, and we've used it periodically, but it's fun for the kids to learn to mix colors. And when we use the food dye on the coffee filters, it's such a fast project that the older kids like it's cool, but it's not as interesting for them. And so for either 4th through 6th, or even if you've got a like mature 3rd grade class, they might really enjoy it. You might want to ask the teacher which one you think that they would handle better. But this is a project that is fun and definitely something that they should learn how to do when, in any sort of art situation. So at Niles, you have these watercolor pencils, and I tried to figure out how to use these so that it wouldn't be as messy, and I have not figured out a way. So maybe if somebody has an idea about that, you could let me know, because I know you have a few sets of these in the Niles area in the copy room. But what worked for me is just straight up watercolors, and so we have enough for both schools, and this set is the only one I had at home that was small enough. So the set that you will have they're the praying ones, and they only have this palette. This one these are secondary and tertiary colors that are not in the standard palette. So like the magenta, and this is a red orange, and so those won't be in your set. It's just this, and your palette will be much smaller. So when you pass these out, the kids are probably going to have, depending on how well the previous class took care of them, they could be really messy, or they could be missing some brushes. There should be some extra brushes for the classes. So each person is going to need their own set of paints, and they're going to need their own cup of water and their own brush. Because they need to get the paint completely off of their brush each time. So, if you think the kids can share and they can just refill their cups if they need to, that could work too. And they also are each going to need some paper towel. This is cardstock paper. The template that I made is cardstock, so it's thick enough that you probably don't need this. If they're super messy, it could get on their desk, but they can always wipe it up. It's not food dye. But if you want to use white craft paper behind it, if you think that the teacher will appreciate that, then go ahead and do that. So you'd start out, these, I'm only going to make enough copies for a few classes, because I worry that we would end up with a bunch of cardstock with with printed. So I will have a manila folder with the template in there, and then some extra ones. And if you make sure that you come a little early for your class, and if you need to make copies of it, you can do that right before you start your class. So that's that. So basically what you would do is you'll take your watercolors, and you'll make sure that your brush is really, really clean, and that your colors are really clean. And you'll start with your primaries. And if you look at the template, you've got P for primary. So everywhere there's a P, you're going to do red, yellow, and blue. And it could go red, yellow, and blue. It doesn't really matter. But for that's the way I'll do it. I'll put red at the top. And the more water you have in it, the more diluted it will be. Oh, and I just got some black in there. So you just want to make sure that's really, really clean. And then so you make your red, and they will put it on their palette. Then when they're all ready, they'll just go in there and paint this section. So I'm going to paint my primaries just like that. So each time you're going to clean out your brush all the way and do the other primaries yellow and blue, and I'll be right back. Okay, so now that just took a second. And once your color wheel looks like this, then you want your secondaries. And so I'm going to go ahead and let them cheat. If they mix their secondaries, a lot of times it's just a lot more complicated. So they have to make sure that they understand that red and yellow make orange, and red and blue make purple, and then the blue and the yellow make green. But if they want to use the orange from their palette, that is the orange and the green and the purple, that's probably the best way to do it, because they're going to have to mix their tertiary colors. And so it's probably the cleanest way for them to get those secondary colors is to just use the ones in the palette. So go ahead and let them use them. Just say, I mean, if you want to, if the kids want to, they can mix them. They can go ahead and take the red and the yellow and mix it into orange. But if the orange doesn't turn out just right, the right orange, then your tertiary colors are going to end up being a little bit, they're not going to be quite as spot on. So you can decide how you want to do it. If you want them to mix the orange, go ahead and do it. If you want them to use the ones that are already in their palette, they can. So just make sure that you put the orange in the secondary spot, that you put the green in this secondary spot down here and the purple here, and I'll see you in a second. Okay, and so this is where it gets kind of fun for them to mix, and why it's okay for them to use the secondary colors in the palette, because their tertiary colors, they're yellow green or green yellow, and the teal that comes out of the blue and the green ends up really looking really cool, and it should mimic what we have in the wagon for the example. So for instance, they're going to take their red and their purple. So I have a little bit of this red already mixed up, and you'll have your paper towel. You'll get that red in there, and you'll take a little bit of the purple, and you'll mix that together, and they'll get it to the level they want. They've got red and purple. So if you're trying to mix purple by using the blue and the red to get to the purple, it does make it a lot tougher to get to this third step. So then you're going to go ahead and put in this violet. So that the purple's actually, they call it violet. So this is going to be the red violet. And so then you've got that in between color, and it actually looks really pretty. So each time they might have to clean out their palette if because their palettes are pretty small. So then they just go around the circle. They'll get a little bit of red, and they'll take the red, and they'll get a little bit of orange, take the orange and get that together. And then they're going to go over here and put the red orange in. And if it looks too much like the one next to it, you can always have them go back in and get, this one looks like it needs maybe a little bit more red because it's super diluted. There you go. There's your red orange. So each time you go, you're going to get your brush all the way cleaned out. And then if you need to clean the palette, do it again. You'll take your orange. Just make sure it's as clean as you can get it. Get your orange. And then you're going to add some yellow. Now, the one thing about the yellow is super, super weak in every case. And as soon as you mix the yellow and the orange, it just ends up being super light. So you have to use more yellow, which usually means that the watercolor sets run out of yellow first. So you want to check for that when you're passing them out. Make sure all of them have yellow. So I'll be right back. So once they're all done, that's what the color wheel should look like. And I mean, they can write their names on it. They shouldn't take that long to dry because it's watercolor. And because they are cardstock, they should hold up pretty well. It doesn't actually get onto the paper. So they don't necessarily need to have this craft paper underneath. Of course, I've done this before and I use watercolors, so I probably made it look a little easier than it will be for the kids. But I do suggest that you make sure they are clear on red, yellow, and blue being primary colors, that you cannot mix those colors. You always have to have those to start. So you can take those three colors and only use those to create this color wheel. But if you want it to be pretty and you don't want it to take too long, they can go ahead and use the violet and the orange and the green as their secondaries and get those in, and then mix their tertiaries from there. So take the straight up orange and mix it with the red to get the red orange, and so forth. So it's an option to do with the older kids. I've found that we tried this a few years ago, and it was a hit with some of the kids that, actually with the older kids, they did really enjoy it. when the younger kids were doing something that was just a little bit more simple. So it is definitely a good basis for them to kind of start the year understanding how to mix color. So I hope this helps. Thank you. Bye.